Greetings, programs, and welcome to Master of Orion Early Access 2. Wow, it looks so good now, don't you think? Look at that graphical improvement. That's incredible. Wow, it's like a whole other game. Yeah, no, do not adjust your sets. This is, in fact, Master of Orion 2. And I'll get round to why exactly I'm showing you this in just a moment. But first, I will run over some of the actual changes in Early Access 2. It's not going to be a completely comprehensive rundown, but just from having played it a bit myself and also looking at the patch changes in it, there are some fairly significant improvements compared to EA1. Now, one of the big ones is that there are now difficulty settings available. It's not just kind of defaulting in the middle. And even with that default normal difficulty, I have felt like there are significant improvements in how the AI behaves. So they've obviously been working on that as a priority, because that was one of the things with EA1. The AI really wasn't that much of a challenge. And particularly when it came to diplomacy, you just had constantly plunging diplomatic relations with everybody. So keeping up good diplomatic relations was really difficult. Now, however, it's a lot more sensible and a lot more challenging. It definitely, I haven't tried the harder difficulties yet, but even on the normal difficulty, it feels different than EA1. The AI actually is behaving in a much more, I don't want to say rational way, but it's behaving in a way that, you know, makes for better gameplay for me, the player. They've added more races, including the Terran Incarnate, which is one of the ones that comes with the Collector's Edition. And also with the Collector's Edition, you get Master of Orion, even 1, 2, and 3. And of course, we're seeing Master of Orion 2 here. And they will install and run through Steam. And it actually just runs through DOSBox. So it actually does run smoother than this, but I had to run it windowed rather than full screen because I couldn't get it to record full screen. It would only run when it was windowed with DOSBox. And it does still run reasonably well, but it's a little more stuttery when it's windowed. So yeah, that's the Collector's Edition though. So yeah, they've added some more races. They've actually changed the galaxy generation just a bit. So you're more likely to find certain planets in certain types of star system, basically. But, you know, depending on what classification the star is. You also now, I'm kind of doing this in a random order, you can now create a customized race. You can't fully customize it as you can with something like Stellaris, from what we've seen from the Stellaris footage. But you can basically take one of the race portraits, and I should say, I reinstalled Galciv like 2 weeks ago and played a couple of hours through that. So it's that was interesting, going back to Galciv 2 rather, and seeing how that compared. And there was a lot of very familiar things, but yeah, again, like Galciv 2 is exactly the same. You take like the race, and then you kind of customize the stats and the traits, and it's a bit. There's not that much to it at the moment. You can basically choose race traits and get things like bonus research. So you could have the Bullrathi playing like the Cylon, for instance, in terms of how well they research stuff, or you could have the Cylon with lots and lots of military bonuses. And there's one especially powerful one which takes up all of your race points, because you get 100 to play with, and it costs all 100, and basically production does not cause any pollution whatsoever. So that's a really powerful one, so it costs all points. But along with the positive traits, you can deliberately take negative traits in order to get more positive traits, because your positive traits cost points, but the negative traits give you back points. So Crusader Kings 2 is exactly the same. When you're picking out character traits, you can take negative traits to offset having more good traits, or you could just have just a few good traits. Stellaris, actually, I'll bring that in again. It's somewhat interesting in that Paradox have for Stellaris, unlike other games, they have decided to put a hard cap on that. You can only take 4 racial traits, so you have to choose quite carefully. But that's not the case with the Master of Orion, at least not so far. The AI I've actually covered. I mean, in terms of how it relates to you, the player, but they've also improved things like how the AI manages its own Empire, how it uses ship upgrades, that kind of thing. So the AI is just generally smarter overall. And talking of ship design, they've also made improvements there, because it was the case with EA1 where you would have a kind of design, a customized design that you make yourself, like a destroyer that's very missile heavy, or you would make maybe a cruiser hull with carrier base, and then some technology would come along and it would go, here's the automatic upgrades that we've selected, and you click OK, and suddenly your carrier wouldn't be a carrier anymore. It would have defaulted to different weapons, or your destroyer would have lost all of its missiles. So it should be smarter about that now, in theory. Colony management has gotten a bit easier, because you now have an actual list of the buildings in your colony, which is very, very useful. You don't have to rely on picking out the little structures on the revolving planet, which is not really... Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that oversight came into it to start with, but yeah, that's much better now. There's probably been some other little UI tweaks and changes that I haven't noted, but that's kind of the big one that was a much requested feature. And, well, tactical combat is probably the last and the biggest of them in terms of how expanded it's been. In EA1, it just felt like there wasn't much to it. You just selected your fleet, you just attacked the other fleet. It does feel still quite fast, and honestly I'd like slower combat on maybe slightly bigger maps, or at least the option of that when you're doing tactical combat, but it feels like there's a lot more to it. So now, for instance, the formation of your ships matters, because it will give certain bonuses to your ships, or the kind of cooldowns that you use at various times now matter more, and you can it feels expanded, but I think it could be expanded even more personally, or at least have the option to be expanded more. So it is better, but a lot of the time I find myself going for auto-resolve, even though auto-resolve will actually tend to give worse results in terms of ships. But if you build up a big enough fleet advantage, then you probably can just auto-resolve it. But I was always that way with the Total War games as well. Fighting the actual battles was never my thing. I actually preferred the strategic part, and conquering and building up forces and all that kind of thing, rather than commanding the actual battles, first hand, or not first hand, but you know what I mean. So yeah, so there's been lots of improvements this time round, and of course this is only EA2. There's at least one major revision still to come, Early Access 3, and then after that, in theory, it's going to be the full release. So for now, it remains that you can only still buy the Collector's Edition on Steam, and the Collector's Edition does come with extra stuff like the Terran Carnate, as I've said. But if you're kind of semi-interested but maybe weren't willing to pay the full price, well, I've got some good news, because I've got some things to give away. Now, there was a stream on Saturday with myself, Conway from Wargaming EU, Maxwell, and Jingles, and we played for a couple of hours. I will actually put a link in below to Maxwell's VOD of that stream, which is obviously going to be much higher quality than anything I could do, and it had a couple of good moments. It did have a couple of good moments. Unfortunately, it also ended because the game basically bugged out, so bear in mind this is still early access. It is not 100% there. It is playable. And my personal yardstick for any kind of early access game is it playable as a game right now? And yes, it is. But it's still a little rough around the edges. There are still bugs. There are still things missing, such as, an espionage system, which is I expect that's going to come along in Early Access 3. Well, it'll have to, I would think. So, yeah, it is playable, but it is also a little bit buggy still. So I don't expect it to be a 100% smooth experience. But having said that, big AAA titles that get launched sometimes are, in worse states than Master of Orion is right now. Battlefield, anybody. So, yeah, what I've got, what was given away during the stream was some Master of Orion 2 codes for Steam. So this is what we're seeing right now, Master of Orion 2, and it basically runs in DOSBox. It does run better than this, because in order to record it, I had to force it to run windowed rather than full screen. When it's full screen, it runs pretty smoothly. When it runs windowed, DOSBox makes it very stuttery, unfortunately. And either way that you run it, the music sounds pretty terrible. The music doesn't seem to keep up through DOSBox, so I actually turned off the music entirely. But otherwise, yeah, I can kind of see why this was such a popular game and why it was regarded as the best of the series, because it's the formula is all there, and even though the interface is it feels a little clunky, it's got some really nice elements to it. So yeah, I can see why this is regarded as a classic. And in addition to the codes I've got for that, I've also got some discount codes for the Master of Orion Collector's Edition, which actually includes Master of Orion 1, 2, and 3. So, yeah, if you're just interested in getting your hands on a version that will run even on Windows 10 of Master of Orion 2, then that's a thing that you should, I'm going to make these giveaways separate things. Then make it clear that you just want Master of Orion 2. If, however, you want a discount code for the Collector's Edition of Master of Orion, which includes Master of Orion 2, then obviously you should make that clear in the comments below. And it will just be a random pick out of people leaving comments. Now, how it works, as far as I know, for Master of Orion 2 and the discount codes, basically you enter it into the... Well, you should be familiar with how to do it in Steam. You actually... down in the bottom left hand corner there's a thing for adding Steam codes, and as far as I know with the discount code you just add it that way as well, and it gives you a discount voucher for the game that you can then apply through the store when you go and buy it normally. So it's 15% off, and I'm not even sure what it costs at the moment, but it makes it a bit cheaper. And if you've been interested but maybe unwilling to pay the full price, well, 15% off is not nothing. So like I said, make it clear in the comments below which you are interested in. I'm going to limit it to one per person, because there's no point in asking for both. Because if you're going to get the discount code and buy Master of Orion, it comes with Master of Orion 2 through Steam. However, if you're just interested in Master of Orion, well, obviously, that's... So yeah, there's no point in me giving 2 codes to the same person, if you see what I mean. So... make it really clear which you're interested in, and I will, once I'm back from Poland, do a random draw. So hopefully you have found this useful, this little update on the state of EA2 and this look at Master of Orion 2. Maybe you just found it nostalgic, I don't know. But if you have, you can leave any comments and, memories, thoughts on the classic Master of Orion series below. You can hit the like button, you can sub to my channel if you aren't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.